I'm curious to get your thoughts as far as like, what were your thoughts on the video? Did Drake deliver, underperform? We'll start with Mr. Rosenberg on his thoughts.
Listen, I appreciate you guys very much, so I'm not gonna hold back here. I only watched highlights of the video. It's and that's not disrespect. Music videos to me these days, like I probably watched Not Like Us one time when it came out. And was like, cool, kept it moving, right? I just don't live currently in the space where like breaking down music videos is part of my thing. So, but I saw like the little connections people were drawing, and I it felt like a reach. Like I'm not saying that it wasn't little stuff, but it wasn't enough to like honestly warrant major conversation to me. But again, I'm not like Captain break it down to that degree. I'm like, is it on the surface? Then to me, it's something worth talking about. Like the 50 other, when people broke down the Super Bowl, like by day 2, I was like, all right, no, I get it. I don't need like 50 different versions.
Yeah.
If it takes that long to figure out what we're talking about, while it's neat for like the hardcore nerds, I'm too busy. I'm sorry, I got no time. But yeah, no, it was cool. If I'm Drake, I'm just happy I have that big a hit. Like. What's happened that's more interesting to me than whether or not he took subtleties at Kendrick in the video, to me it's that he has now crept up and put together a couple of very Drake-like hits like he should have done probably from the very beginning. If I'm Drake, I'm probably staying away from any of the Kendrick stuff, though it doesn't seem like he can fully resist it, and focusing on this. Like, no matter what people say about that man, the hits come. Like, they're going to come. So, like, to me, that's the bigger story here. Drake is fully back in the Hot 100. Is anything right now, does Kendrick have anything hotter than 7 right now? Are they still up there?
Kendrick's got number
Luther's
one.
one.
Yeah.
6 weeks in a row. Yeah. Potentially hitting 7.
That's crazy.
Hell yeah.
And Not Like Us is still in the top 10.
By the way, if you're still listening to Not Like Us, you are a diabolical fucking lunatic. The idea right now of someone
that guy right here.
You got one clearly to your right.
Look at his sweatshirt.
A bop is a bop.
Oh, that's not a lie.
No, hold on. What that mean?
A blue double.
Hell yeah.
He's wearing a repulsive sweatshirt of the
I'm
most
wearing
disgusting,
the next
putrid
championship-winning team.
Shout out to Duke. They
No,
are in
you're
the
not
Final
wrong.
Four.
By the way, you are right about that, and that's why I will not watch 1 second this weekend. I'm gonna watch it like I watched the Drake video. Not at all. But no, you have great taste. I realized, I sat down, I'm like, how am I sitting between a great sweatshirt and...
Oh, you see the vision.
Yeah, I see.
You saw the vision.
Wait, hold on.
He saw the vision, man. Shout out to OTC.
It's good and evil here. No, I do think you guys are gonna win though. They're very good, but but now I can't respect your taste in anything else. No, but Not Like Us to listen at this point is diabolical. Like that song, it hit such a peak of just insanity. I'm trying to think of the last record before that hit that level of sort of ubiquity within hip hop.
Just record or just record in general?
Within hip hop.
Because I don't even know that the average Drake hit, as big as they are, gets to like that. Like you go it's everywhere you go. You just could not.
But to that,
it felt like it was like the only song in the world.
And look, he's cheating
I'm
so
thinking.
hard.
I'm like.
But to that point, you know why it has, earned this massive acclaim and ubiquity? Because of the guy we're talking about. Because of Drake. That's just the
reality. Are you really on,
bruh? I mean, that's just the reality of it.
You can't just discount that the song itself is also a great track.
Because Luther is doing this thing on the chart 6 weeks at number 1. So he has proven before and now that he can make hits beyond Drake, and I think that was super important. But yeah, y'all are some diabolical fucks if y'all still playing Not Like Us. That's kind of
like you get in the car and you're just like,
bam, bam, bam. A bop is a bop. Bro, like it's not make the grams. Like it's not 16 in LA. Like it's just a bop.
Like nowadays it's nothing. Plus it got the second win with the Super Bowl. I think that's
But even the
months
Super Bowl
ago
was
the
2
song
months
started.
ago.
I mean that's true, but I think a lot of people we're
almost
like
at
my
the draft.
parents and stuff.
I think the scary thing is knowing that Kendrick is possibly gonna like bring the song back on tour, and it's going to
possibly. I'd be shocked. I mean, you can't leave it off the tour, right?
No, I mean
it has to be the main part of it.
Yeah,
that has to be
I mean, because it's one of those things where everybody who likes that song is waiting for their moment to be live. Like doing it in the stadium with everybody. I mean, it's kind of like the mute challenge or some shit. It's like it's cool to see, but like I get a chance to be in the room with 70,000 other people doing it. Like everybody wants that moment.
So we're really
gonna
go
waiting for that.
18 months of this record still being a thing. That is sick.
We might.
I think it's gonna.
We very might.
It's one of the biggest. It's become one of the biggest rap records of all time, and that to me is where it got fascinating because, like, at a certain point, you know, Kendrick has to be somewhat mindful of how much the record defines him because it's so not a definitive record for him. Mm-hmm. But for a lot of people, it is.
Yeah.
Like, that is his definitive record for maybe more people that know him now than anybody else.
And is that a good thing?
That's an interesting, at the very least, it's interesting.
Because at the heart of that, who's at the heart of that?
I mean, it's
Kyle?
interesting. I think it's a bad thing, though.
It may not be.
But who's at the heart of that?
Well, by the way, the angle you're running.
His pen.
It's Drake.
The angle that you're running Drake, like as if that makes it a good thing. Just because Drake's at the center of it, that's not some sort of dub for Drake either.
I also think
because he's in that mindset that, you know, I gave you your biggest hit kind of shit.
But it's like Not Like Us gets this big and this massive because it ends up transcending the beef after a certain couple of months. Like, because everyone bought into being not, you know, the us that he's talking about. Right. So like, I feel like even now at this point, post Super Bowl especially, Drake isn't even really on people's minds as much when they hear like the hook, at least maybe specific lines in the verses that are actually talking about him. But like the hook itself, I hear that in so many different contexts now that it's like no song gets that big if it's always just tied to the first thing that it was like.
Right, like you think for example, like a high school basketball team is saying they're not like us. They're just talking about the team they're playing against. It kind of doesn't have any special significance. Just that it's fun to say in sort of a competitive way. It's
cemented itself in the lexicon of like our vocabulary, like as a culture now.
Yeah, you know what?
Like,
it probably will. It's probably just happening right now, but like, nah, they're not like us is probably going to be a thing that people are saying in 10 years.
That I agree with, but I think until then, it's going to be just a fucking flamethrower at Drake. Like, when I hear the song, I think of Certified Lover Boy, Certified Pedophile. Like, I still think of it.
It is
well,
hard.
That might say more about you.
I'm about to say, you might think about that because that's your boy.
When y'all hear the record, or like the first bars that come off, I'm sure it's like against Drake.
Well, it's a diss record, so like that makes sense.
So,
I mean, the punchiest record.
What I'm thinking about, like, oh, they're not.
What I'm saying is, like, even bits like, you know, like the wop, like stuff like that is like clearly about Drake in context, but people have really removed context when they like say that part now. Like when you're in the club and you hear people jump in for their favorite parts, like it's not really always people rapping like the lines of the song. It really is that hook, because the hook is super universal. Like, that's why that song is so big. Like, because that hook and that beat, like those violins in the back,
I was
like
gonna say the instrumental, people
that
like
too.
Yeah, the instrumental,
like,
absolutely. Shout out to Mustard. By the way.
Yeah, which by the way, that's kind of another part that gets underappreciated, is how the level, like, we don't actually properly, and I don't mean this to sound like a subtle diss. I think this is just reality. While Mustard was sitting on piles of money because of how well he's done, let's not act as if prior to the song, everyone was having Mustard conversations nationally.
Oh, yeah.
He was cold.
Like, nationally. Now, I'm not saying in L.A. he wasn't always DJ Mustard.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, like, his records were not, like, unless it was a throwback set and you were hearing, like, you know, Tinashe 2 On, or, like, which are now true throwback records.
Right.
Yeah.
That comeback to Producer of the Year, to on stage at the Grammys, to at the Super Bowl, that may be one of the greatest music comebacks of all time.
Absolutely.
And it's not really being talked about. Everyone kind of has, it was such a big comeback that people forgot how quiet it had been for him nationally prior to that. And again, that's not a diss. People have ebbs and flows as producers.
You're right.
Everyone has.
Hit Boy.
Everyone's had them. Yeah. So, but like for the last few years, it really had not been a ton of Mustard conversation. He's now that
it was
guy.
like Metro
And got the follow-up with
Jacob,
GV
some of those
off,
cats
like-
are taking,
And he's going to be opening up the tour for Kendrick and SZA now. So,
Oh, wow, just doing like a set.
doing a set ahead of their performance.
Probably something like, you know, like the pop out kind of thing, I would think. I mean, obviously, you know, without the special guest, but in that kind of.
I mean, he
vein.
could
Maybe
do
with
a
a special
He
guest.
could do
I mean,
special
city to city.
guests.
Certain,
Like Khaled-
certainly
Khaled-
when they're doing LA, I'm sure
like
people
with
will like.
Khaled.
Yeah.
Well, when
Beyonce
Khaled opened
tour.
for Beyonce and Jay,
Oh,
he was
yeah,
doing
yeah.
the
He
mini-
brought out everybody.
Listen, I will. You could have another conversation about, in the all-time lexicon of hip-hop hits, has a record ever done more for a producer's legacy than Not Like Us will have done for DJ Mustard? I mean, that is
He has a fucking partnership with Hines now.
That's a good
Like,
question.
he didn't even have that
Yeah.
before, which is crazy.
And he
Well,
was
that
always
was
Mustard.
and that was the
He's always
TV
been
off
Mustard.
shit that
Right.
really, like set that. I mean, just
Mustard.
the fact that you got. a new producer tag out of that because he already had one, but now to come with this one and everybody for a minute there was really doing
That
it.
instantly caught on.
And it's like TV Off didn't even get the full, like it got a big push, but there was no video, there was no it didn't even go necessarily as hard as it could have. But clearly for Mustard to get
And what an interesting thing for Kendrick to even do on that record. Like logic. Like I wonder what he was thinking in terms of knowing specifically how much he'd be cement. It's just an interesting, that whole piece of Mustard with that record, I think is an underrated piece of the story. It's
and I
fascinating.
think the genius of Mustard is like flipping the same beat.
Right.
That he ended up making Not Like Us and TV Off. So flipping one beat to make these two iconic beats is fucking nuts.
Yeah.
So shout out to DJ Mustard. And, I'm going to say this. Shout out to Drake, man. Like, the video is ass.
we really got
I'm going to say this like he would never say shout out to
But,
Drake.
the record, to Peter's point, man, he is having a great year. He has a #1 album, Kyle.
I ain't say shit.
Kyle. he has a #1 album. It's still top 5 on the 200. Nokia is a bona fide hit. No features on that. So, he's having a low-key MVP run right now.
MVP run?
Low key, he's in the race.
You mean this early in the year?
Yeah.
How
he's
we
in the
MVP?
race.
He still ain't got a #1 single yet this year.
He's in the race. That's all I'm saying.
Who else is in the race?
Playboi Carti, who's in the lead. Kendrick, obviously, because he's still dominating the conversation. But Drake is like top 5 in that conversation.
It's fair.
Yeah,
it's the biggest. Is there the Carti album's bigger?
The Carti album, it's
But bigger to who? You know what I'm saying? Like
bigger to the people who count the score.
Bigger to outside.
Yeah.
But like in my life, for example, like I didn't have an interest in the Drake Party album because it's not for me. That kind of Drake's never been for me.
Yeah.
And yet those songs are getting to my life because they're that big.
Yeah.
Respectfully, that Playboi Carti album, with the exception of the fact that I went on that Saturday to go, let me hear what everyone's talking about, flip. Without that, those are never making it to me. I'm just letting you know, as a 45-year-old,
I'm right there with you,
who
man.
lives life, those Carti songs ain't making it to my world.
That's why I
I'm
brought
about
it
to
right
say
here.
that as a 24-year-old.
The neighborhood
all I've been
YN,
hearing
man.
this Carti for the
That's
past
all,
2 months. Like, yeah.
But you already lost me earlier with the sweatshirt.
Hey,
No.
bro.
And then to
Hey,
follow
bro.
up, and then you
Hey,
lost
bro.
me a second time
Hey, bro.
when he said when they play it in the club. I was like, "What's a club?" I was like, "You've heard Not Like Us in a club." I didn't
you'd
know
be
clubs were
outside.
still open. I honestly didn't know clubs were still going.
Yeah, you're not
I'm
outside,
old.
bro. You got to be
I know,
outside.
I'm
We'll
not.
go outside. We'll go
Yeah.
outside.
But so like do they play? Are they playing Playboi Carti out?
No, I will say that. I don't hear Cardi
It's
out
among
yet.
other people
It's
music heads who are of your age, blah, blah,
But
blah.
you know what they're playing outside? They're playing at Nokia.
But they are.
They are
But no,
playing
that's
Nokia.
not that is a
It's
fact.
always a very interesting. time
Again,
the club
not
when
for
that
me,
song comes
but
out.
I respect it's still Drake crossover Drake. Like, that's what he does.
Give my nigga his flowers,
I'm
man.
like, nobody's-
Throw your sixes up.
nobody's
Sixes? I'll never
Nobody's
do that.
trying
Throw
to
your
take him
sixes
away.
up.
I could give him a carnation. I don't know about a.
Okay, I'll
Okay,
take that.
flowers.
I'll take that. Moving on. This.
Damn, we ain't even. The poor video, we got.
I mean, to be honest, there was nothing.
Well, your
noteworthy
guest
in the
didn't
video.
watch it, so
I
it's my
guess.
fault. You
I mean, no, it's just.
And I'm a Drake stan. There was nothing noteworthy about the video.
Shout out to the dancers though.
Shout
They
out
went
to the
crazy.
dancers,
Choreography
yeah.
was great.
Shout out to Shea Gildress, Alexander.
Obviously a
came in
well
the
shot video. Shout out to IMAX. You know, that's
I
cool.
almost
Well put
wonder
together.
though to the point that somebody mentioned earlier, like, is this a red herring video or something? Because it's so on the nose with the dancing imitation or what.
The
It's just
owl at
the
the
question
end.
is this over or is it not? And that's
It'll never be over.
I guess I'm like the last person to figure that out because he, like, as far back as Part 6, it was like, all right, I'm done. And then there's always been a little like, but I'm not, but we're not. Like, it just feels
Drake's a sore
I'm
loser.
confused.
Kendrick's a sore winner. So it's never
Is
gonna.
he a sore winner?
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah,
like
what is
if
a
he
sore
was a
winner?
sore winner, we would see
That's
him
an
a lot
interesting-
more this
He's
year
going
than
to
twice.
continue to throw barbs. They both are until
Yeah.
the end of time.
I just feel like sore winner might be doing a lot though.
Is
We've
it?
seen the nigga twice this calendar year so far. I feel like if he was really a sore winner, he'd be outside all the time, always talking about it. Like,
Well, he's
you
gonna
got like a
perform.
little bit of an ad lib flip on like freaking what's that song on Good Credit, like, and some lines on that one, but like he hasn't really been hammering.
Oh, he
this
will on the
that.
tour
Well, yeah,
when he
because
performs Not Like Us.
it's a tour.
And you can't tell me he's
Dude, I'll
not,
perform
for
the
the rest
songs.
of his career, not going to throw barbs at Drake.
I mean, he's been doing it from the jump,
And he's going to keep doing it as a sore winner. He could have just left it alone.
That's an interesting line where that is
know
sore
about
winner.
sore winner.
It's not sore winner. It's petty. respectfully, in a good way or a bad way, depending how you view it. It's vindictive for sure.
He's a sick fuck.
I mean, listen, but listen, I didn't even know that I had this in common with Kendrick. So like, I respect this so much.
See,
I literally, the people who I have issues with never die.
Oh, it's eternal.
You the
I
type
will
of brother,
be-
he's pissing on
It's
the
not even
grave.
no, eternal implies I'm that's one step too far.
Throwing matches.
No, by the way, 50 is the only person where I will say one step too far.
Yeah.
Once untimely death happens, I truly believe, for the purposes of avoiding hell, if you believe in anything whatsoever, my mouth is now shut. There's nothing left to say. I've had people I don't like who have died. At that point, I quietly go, nothing left to say. But
Fair.
up until that moment, I will be the person who, like, when something comes up, and I'm like, are people not pointing this out? We should point this out. You know what I mean? I do. I respect that level of pettiness if you really feel that the person, you took issue with a person, there has been no attempt for things to ever get better. Maybe you even have made, in my case, I don't want to give too much away. Very often I make an attempt to make things better. You have denied that attempt. Now we're till the end of time. Beyonce, baby. Now we're till the end of time. Whenever anything happens, I'm like, yo, no one noticed X, Y, and Z. That's interesting. So I do respect that, because we can't forget this. I feel bad for Drake at times, but he's the one who always wants to go into some mentioning people's family. And when people mention people's families, now there's a chance it's not going to end until, like, you are gone. You know what I'm saying? Especially, like, I've only been a dad for a couple months. I can't even fathom the level to which I would keep going if someone I felt like disrespected my child in any way. So, you know, we can get into how much Kendrick had to feel disrespected, but listen, every dad's different. Everyone's going to take it different. But Drake always on some, let me mention the wife, let me mention the kids.
I keep saying it. Like, he's got to stop doing that.
Like,
and then hiding his hand.
You
like,
can battle without
I agree.
doing that. You don't have to do it every time.
It's bitch made and it's pussy. He's got to stop it.
I agree.
He said it's bitch made and it's pussy. To be
I heard
bringing
it.
up people's
I heard it. I
lives.
just never heard a man with the Duke sweatshirt talk like this.
Yeah, I'm from Brooklyn. Come on now. What is this?
Kyle,
Don't let the shit fool you.
Yeah,
Come on now.
Can you go to Duke?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you thought he was just fake rap?
Oh,
Oh,
no,
wow.
he-
Well, listen,
Herb,
obviously my first thought when you see a black guy wearing a Duke sweatshirt is not that they went there, because it's 98% white. Their diversity thing is, we won't go there.
Nah, Kyle's blue-blooded, man.
But
Come on, be
as I listen
the
to him-
exception.
I will say this, as I've listened to him communicate, I'm like, this guy's kind of sharp. He might have gone to Duke. But at the same time, I'm like, back to the black guy thing. Why would he go to Duke? Who would want to do that?
fair.
Who with any swag would want to do that to themselves? And so now, here we are.
I'm on the winning team.
I was like,
baby.
Kyle, let's break down your college
That's
admissions
how it's like,
process.
shout out
You
to
know,
you,
Cooper
baby.
Flag, by the way. Yeah,
Does Cooper Flag have swag? I guess we're going to find out.
we're gonna find out.
You don't
but
need
he's
it.
pretty
He's
filthy
making
though.
them buckets. That's
Now,
all
I
we
want
need.
to ask you a
Filthy.
question. I'm going to go. This is unfiltered, right?
Yeah, it's all filtered.
Do we know, this is the most important issue that has not yet been discussed.
Okay.
I'm telling
Come
you,
on,
this is so
conspiracy.
important.
Come on.
No, this is so important. Do we know Cooper Flag and his family's politics yet?
Oh wow.
Because you guys know
What are you thinking?
that if that comes out, that it's something that one might expect from the white guy who goes to Duke.
We
Just saying. And that's
Yeah.
a broad brush. Obviously, there are a lot of progressive people at Duke. I'm busting shit. I'm joking around. And I know they do make a lot of efforts with diversity. I just make fun of how white their whiteness is. That's mostly basketball. But if it turned out he was like a right winger, right?
Okay.
The level of racial divide that is going to cause when he becomes yo guys, he's the best American white boy since Larry Bird. Like, that to me is a fact.
American, yeah.
He is the best American white boy since Larry fucking Joe Bird.
Christian Lane, shout out to Christian Lane and Duke as well.
Oh, if you don't get the
I mean, he was
I
on
mean,
the dream
just
team.
a
He was
little-
bench
a little
warmer,
shout- a little
but he was on
shout
the
out,
dream
a little
team.
shout
no,
out.
he deserves a like. Hey.
Okay, yeah. Passing mention, a little high five, you know.
Like, there are other guys who could certainly ball.
Right,
you know?
absolutely.
Tyler Hero's
Yeah,
a baller.
Tyler Hero,
and,
he's a dog.
White Chocolate was a baller.
Jason
Like,
Williams was a dog.
You know, there are
yes.
guys who are really good players for sure. But in terms of like what he's capable of,
Oh, absolutely. This is like
could be
Hall of Famer material.
and
yeah.
remember, like, the Caitlin Clark thing is fascinating because we saw where that was
yeah.
going, but now she made
She
that
course
super
corrected.
complicated because she's a progressive.
Yeah.
So now they're like, We don't
That's
know
why
what.
I think you probably will never hear him talk about anything
That's
related
so
to it. Like he'll just
right?
like toe the line and just not actually give you either way. Just make it. About
He loves
basketball.
everybody.
Like right.
Has to be, right?
But you
Like,
know who played it
he
right?
has to.
You know who played it right? Shout out to Paige Buckets.
Yeah.
Out of UConn, because when she did that SB speech, she's like,
Nah, she
listen,
went.
Oh yeah.
Well, she went, you know what, though? Morally, she did the right thing,
okay,
right? For
Yeah.
people like us,
Right.
we went, I like Paige Becker. That's,
yeah.
but in terms of grabbing the most bags possible, Caitlyn did it better.
Oh, yeah.
Which was weighted. No one really knew. In fact, had a full-on feud with the best black player. So the white people, the racists were going, I think we like her. She was like, she got them all excited. Then she gets to the WNBA and was like, we need to have a conversation
We have
about the women who have paved the way. So she maximized it first. Then she hit them with the Paige. Paige is like me. She too early was like, I'm a snowflake. I'm not on your side. You don't want me. Trust me. Which I respect. I respect the hell out of it.
Yeah.
But Caitlyn, she was able to like hang on a little bit
She
longer.
wait till that ink was dry.
Yeah,
you know.
before they found out.
Yeah, Cooper's doing
She's
the
like,
Caitlyn route for sure.
yeah,
for
right.
Sure.
But
yeah.
that is the thing about basketball. Like football and baseball, and again, we're unfiltered, man. We're going everywhere. Football and baseball, guys. You know, and I say this from being on the sports side too. A lot of the white athletes in those sports do lean right politically. Like this is what I've heard from everybody.
Yeah.
From everybody who's in those locker rooms.
Yeah.
Basketball, of course, is a bit different, right? Not to say that that doesn't exist at all, but to be a white American player or white European player, whatever, and want to exist in basketball very often means you also want to have some appreciation of black culture because black culture is such a sort of core part of what
Defined by,
American
like,
basketball
NBA,
is.
yeah.
So, like, to be there and also be like a virulent racist underneath, it would be challenging. You know?
It'd be a hard double life to live.
But I'm sure it happens.
Oh yeah, it
but
was like a Wayans Brothers parody movie or something. Like
Right?
how you navigate through the NBA, you know, I mean, as like secret races.
I'd be kind of hurt.
I would watch
if, like
that.
Tyler Hero was like a Republican. Like that would kind of like if he was a full blown like.
You could ask Jack Harlow. You know, name him song.
yeah, he can't be, but they're friends,
ask
right?
him.
Yeah.
you
But
can ask him,
Tyler,
though.
Tyler got that. Yeah, he got a little sauce in him. You know.
Yeah, I don't think Tyler's a
Yeah.
What's his face? That other dude
Niggas
on
be
Miami
having
who was-
sauce and still be.
Oh,
the Nazi guy-
Hami Jaquez.
Well, no, the guy who was doing the Nazi talk in the video game chat, but he's off the team now.
Oh well, great.
I don't know if I can think of. I don't know if I can
Great.
think of anyone who I would think in the league was actually like a racist. That's kind of hard to picture, actually. Now, back in the day, we could find some, but different time.
You know who is inexplicably,
Speaking of-
unquestionably.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say Mr. Ye.
Don't point it.
Mr.
Why
Ye. I said Mr. Ye.
Why
I
was
said
he?
Mr. Ye.
No.
Why did he
no.
lean on you?
Oh,
Why did I lean on you?
Right, why was he touching me
Nah,
like?
'cause you know what it is?
No. This is what you did. You were like, well, you know who's really a racist out here. You
No,
know
that
who's
was
weird
you.
out
No,
there.
Because
I'm like,
it
what?
hurts my
That's not
heart.
me. Like, I'm not like.
It hurts my
For the
heart.
record, that's not me.
It hurts my
That's not
heart.
me,
I'm just
mama.
glad he went that way.
It hurts.
Because he
He was like,
It hurts my
argue.
heart.
right, we're about to
crazy.
No. It
About to change the
hurt my
whole
heart. That's why I was
subject.
like, shit. We really got to talk about Ye because I really think he's gone in the sense of he just did an interview with Akademiks where he was
He's
You
dawning.
could have stopped right there, and he would have been gone. But keep
Yeah,
going.
he was dawning first when Ak walked in, was rocking a Sean John shirt, and then changed the tires and put on a all black KKK outfit to do an hour interview.
That swastika necklace. Like,
Yeah, he had the
initially,
necklace, too.
so
I'd already seen
a
the
lot.
swastika necklace though. He'd already been rocking that.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
been
yeah,
rocking
I've been
that. And they did an hour-long interview where Ye touched on everything. Torched Jay-Z, Kendrick Lamar, John Legend. He said he smells like mashed potatoes. Kim Kardashian.
The mashed potatoes is a crazy. Like,
Yeah. He,
By the way, I
It's like-
love mashed potatoes. Like,
I was about to say, like, you
that
smell
an
like
insult? Mash be
butter and like
I
chives.
know.
Like,
Sweet, delicious
that don't
America.
sound too
I mean, what are you talking about?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I would be like, okay, that's weird. It's not bad.
But it's not bad,
But
right.
it's like,
You couldn't feel hungry.
Right,
I guarantee you
like-
could feel hungry.
like you got something on the stove. Like, why does it?
Are you just coming from KFC?
It's one of the things I wouldn't say, but I would think. You
I would
know,
start
I'd be
craving
like,
Boston
they
Market
really
for
smell
sure.
like
If
some
somebody
damn
smelled like
potatoes
wedges,
in
I
here.
wouldn't be mad at that. Though.
Wedges too.
But they
Any
don't smell
potato
good.
might
What
smell
is he
like
talking
some
about?
old fry
KFC
oil.
wedges, though. I'm just
Let me
saying.
tell you
I
something.
try.
Let me tell you something. If you walk in somebody's house, they smell like KFC wet, like fried oil wedges. You're not gonna be like,
I'm gonna turn my.
I'll be like, where'd you get
Hey.
that from?
Gonna lie.
where'd I get what from?
Like you just came from KFC. Like that's all I'm saying.
Yo, that's crazy.
You
No,
know
what?
I have
What
an
do you?
affinity for KFC wedges. It's been a while.
So does everybody.
Okay. Anyway,
But either way,
back to Kanye.
Yeah,
that was
either-
the softest. That was by far the softest insult
Either
lobbed at
way.
anybody that day.
Yeah, you know, when you think about it,
Like
relative,
honestly, if I get the mashed potatoes, I'm kind of
No,
walking
I'll
away
take it,
okay.
right?
You know, like,
relative to Jay-Z and telling the mother of your children you didn't want to have any kids with her.
Yeah.
2 months after dating her.
I take the mashed potatoes insult, but this thing, guys, has gotten to like I would say it's sad if I still like had that empathy there, but obviously at a certain point when you're really doing badly and you choose to not make it better, like in fact you want to like really take advantage or sort of like, you know, he kind of started that BS with the whole my bipolarness is a superpower thing. Like he started playing with it in some ways back then. And I do think that was truly the beginning of the fall off of this guy. You know, I think that there are a lot of like misrepresentations of the way the last 10 years have played out. I really think it's like, I love half of the life of Pablo, maybe more of it, but that was to me the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
The rollout, which was a complete and total
Disaster.
nightmare. I've said this, I'll say this till the day I die. The fact that he decided on that beautiful, what could have been one of the great rap records of all time, when he decided to say, bleach her asshole on the record. I swear to you, to me, that is a bigger deal than people give it credit for. That is such a misstep as an artist.
Yeah.
And the fact that there was no one in the room to be like, hey, we're doing the whole like choir thing. This song is like, hits you in the heart.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that bar is good. To me, I'm like, oh, this is a guy who is losing sight of like what it is to make complete art. He can make pieces of art now that are really cool.
Yep.
And even on that album, there are other pieces you can hear. Like how many times he goes back to his cousin who stole his laptop.
Oh yeah.
Like you were telling, oh, this is a guy who's mentally like, when there's one thought in his head, like he's not, there's something wrong here.
Yeah.
Even though the good parts of that album are as good, I think, as really great
is anything.
stuff that
Yeah.
he's done.
Yeah.
That was the beginning. The Wyoming shit was a complete flop. I don't care. Yes, there are songs I like on Kids See
Yeah,
Goes.
yeah.
There are songs I like on his record. Of course, Tiana's project, which I mean, he basically ruined for her, but it turned out to be a great, the great stuff on that. It's one of the worst Nas projects of all. Like,
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Nasir.
Garbage.
Yeah.
even, and I'll argue this till the day I die. Cop Shot the Kid was the most exciting and misused sample of all time.
Yes.
Like you hear it and you go, oh, where is this going? And then I'm like, that's as far as it's going? So that whole period to me wasn't good. And that was the beginning of my, I'm done. Like I remember, and they asked me to go out in the depth when they were trying to convince people to fly to Wyoming. At that point, I guess I had completely soiled the relationship to the point where they asked me to go. And I was like, I'm not going to Wyoming. I'm not saying I'm against going to Wyoming, but to listen.
Shout out Wyoming.
Bro, it's hard when a friend says, can you
Cody,
come to Brooklyn to
Wyoming.
listen to my album?
Imagine going to Wyoming.
To Wyoming?
Yeah.
To be like sycophants for this guy? And all those celebrities still ran and showed up? They really, a lot of great celebrities deserve a little bit more ridicule now for the fact that y'all ran to Wyoming to listen
Shit,
to
a bunch of them
pieces
still
of
ran to
shit.
the Donda listening
So I-
sessions
Bro,
6 years
yeah.
later. Like, they enabled this nigga,
Yo,
just
the
like the rest of the
stadium,
listeners do.
the
Yeah.
Yo, with the people who tell me that Donda's a classic.
I know. I know.
Tell us about the stadium.
No, I was gonna say. So I went to Wyoming.
You went to both?
He did-
You was out in Cody.
I didn't go to the stadiums. I went to Wyoming.
I thought you was. My bad.
No,
you
no,
were
no.
you-
I went to the Larry Hoover concert
The
that
Larry-
him
yes,
and Drake
yes,
did. I
yes,
went to
yes, yes,
Wyoming.
yes.
I got duped because the Ye album was atrocious, and they gave us freaking Yeezys, which I used to go to the gym now, And
I respect you giving them some love.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta, come on, they're sneakers, bro.
And for me, that was the beginning of the end. Actually, that experience is when musically for me, I was like, yeah, it's over.
Where were you working at that time?
I was here.
You were here, okay.
I was here, and at the time, and I've told these guys this every now and then when Kanye drops, there's some semblance of the guy who made the first 5 albums, undeniable classics. Like, I feel the same way like I told you about Donda. If you truncate that album, which was 28 songs, to 15 songs, you have a fire.
I appreciate it.
Really?
Let's get it to 9.
9!
I was like 12.
But
We're getting
I more agree with the idea of parts of songs having like there's a minute here, a hook here,
Yes.
like
Yeah,
I think that's
like
a
I
great.
told you about on Vultures too.
Yeah,
That was unfinished, but
a lot
it
of
had
a lot of
so much
start
potential.
stops.
Yeah.
like,
Start, stop.
That's where you can hear the flicker, but it doesn't the flame doesn't catch.
Yo, but
When he
this-
tried to make Pablo like the living album situation and then kept trying to make updates to it and stuff,
right.
and then just never really continued to do that, and then it just leaked into the rest of the projects where he just never put out finished work.
Nothing
again,
was
for
finished
real.
ever again.
Yeah.
And that just made me think too about what a low. I'm allowed to say whatever I want here, right? I don't work at Billboard.
Free.
What a low life piece of shit Kanye is. This
Talk
guy,
about it.
Jay-Z, got on the best record on Donda, in my opinion, is
Jail.
Jail. That was the coup de grace of that album. I was like, this is a fucking cool sounding song.
Yeah.
That wasn't that long ago that this guy was willing to show up for you. You were already persona non grata at that point.
Right.
Like, you were already burning bridges right and left.
Yeah.
And this guy, who you'd already done the weird shit before remember, we used to play this audio on the radio, I don't know if you guys remember it. Do you remember the, Jay-Z, please don't send your shooters? Remember? He'd already done that whole weird shit years ago.
On tour. Yeah.
And then he came and, again, I'm sure very regretfully, gave you a verse for that. To say the things that you said, there is so no coming back from where he's gone. We talked about it earlier with Drake and Children. Whatever Drake brought up in that battle is
Pales in comparison.
literally nothing.
God.
Like,
What?
nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. There's no response from Jay-Z at this point to Kanye to Ye that I would think is inappropriate. He could say or do anything to this man, and at that point I'd go, I'm not saying I think it was a good idea. I'm not saying I think it was right, but there's not a person alive who wouldn't go, I get it. You said some wild shit about his little children. It's the end.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously we're not even talking about like the Hitler stuff, the swastika stuff, which by the way is so it's boring, and it's so desperate. Like okay, do I believe that the guy may like live in hateful, stereotypical anti-Jewish tropes? Yes, I think that's probably a real thing. Like, I think he's one of those dumb motherfuckers who, after a bad experience, like all bigots, after a bad experience, makes a decision about a group of people.
Right.
Although it's fascinating with him because you have to imagine to have made it to where he was in the business, the amount of good experiences he had to have with Jewish people too, of which we can name some chapter and verse. Steve Rifkin among them. People who stood by you during the worst, who were like known Jewish industry executives. The exact people, not even just by religion, by trade, by style, like the exact people that you have told the world are evil and stealing from everyone and monsters, these have been good people to you at different times. So like, yet I think he's crazy enough to operate in that. Do I really believe that like he truly admires like the idea of gas chambers and murder and killing children? No, I don't. I mean, as psycho as I think he is, I don't think that he sits around thinking that's awesome. Like we should do stuff like that. And that's not me holding on to hope. That's just me believing he's such a fucking phony. Yeah. Like, you don't stand for shit. You don't even stand for your Hitler belief. I don't even believe that. Like, you don't stand for a thing. And the one thing I'm always just left by is the tragedy of Donda West's legacy. Because that was a really special human being who did special things in her life.
Yeah.
And to, like, know that now the thing that will always follow her, which at one point was probably such an incredible point of pride for her, the biggest point of pride, to know that that person is completely sullying your name, like the family name, to me, that is utterly tragic. Like that is the biggest tragedy. And we don't know how that tragedy is going to unfold on his children. And God willing, Kim is able to protect them from that in some way. And I just want to say, no one ever points this out. I got to give Kim Kardashian a lot of credit. Like, I can't manage to stop talking about this idiot, okay? And I don't even know him. Like, I just know him tangentially. She never says boo. Like, she manages to really keep this thing, like, as on the rails. So that's why it really falls on deaf ears. You're walking around hating all these people that they don't defend you against your evil ex-wife who doesn't even step out in the public eye to beat you up when she probably should at this point.
And to that point, knowing that he said in the interview, like, after 2 months, I knew I didn't want to have kids with her. Yet you have 4.
Like,
and yet
again,
North and Saint
4
are at the age
different
where they can
methods, like,
find this on the internet.
Fine, she's with you.
Yeah.
Bro, North was with you when you invited Andrew Tate to your house. Like, did you catch that one?
Yeah,
that one slipped by me last week.
That shit was crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Because
Kim
Kim said, "Fuck no."
Yeah, so I don't know. So this somehow slipped under the radar.
Okay.
Kim Kardashian ran to the LA court, or maybe it was Miami court, and had an immediate injunction and got in front of a judge to steal North back from him because this idiot had Northwest in a house where he was going to invite guests over who are accused of trafficking women. Kim had to run to court to be like, hell no, you are not doing that. So, like, to your point, though, North is obviously a brilliant little girl who's capable of a lot at a really young age. She's hearing all this.
Yeah.
Like, it's just it's a wild thing. I wonder when, who knows what the origin of their relationship ever was. Like, I think they're both so tactical that it's hard to say whether this was ever based in anything
Just organic.
organic at all.
Yeah.
Although the stupid part of me believes at some point it was.
I feel like it was. Like, they're both such narcissists that, like, y'all had to have been attracted to each other.
Yeah, like there was something
That
there.
makes sense. Yeah.
But it is sad, and like, I don't know, like, miss me with the, like, when we talk about Ye, I'm also going to throw in slander for Kim Kardashian, the woman who, you say what you want about her, her main passion now is about getting innocent people out of jail. Like, while you're running around praising Hitler, her main thing is going to prisons to help people. Like, I get it, maybe I'm gullible. I think she's looking better.
Yeah.
There, Ye. Sorry. And she was good in American Horror Story. I mean, listen, I'm going to be honest with you.
I ain't watched that.
Well, fucking said, Peter. Gentlemen, before we close this one out.
I think I'm just tired of like what you were saying, him being a phony in his provocations. Like, when in the Akademiks interview where he was like, "Oh yeah, I can't wear this outside because they're gonna put me in the hospital." I just feel like if you really stood on your shit, you would walk outside in that black KKK outfit and see what happens. You know you do too much, so you stay in areas where you can't get fully, held accountable for real. Like, Akademiks not gonna do shit like in this interview with you. No one's here to actually check you on anything, but like, you won't actually enter a space where you can get checked or have the opportunity to get checked. And I do think you're aware enough to know that you're doing too much, but you want to respond real bad. The issue is he's backed himself into a corner where publicly, like the Carters especially, are not about to publicly acknowledge any of this shit. And he wants that so desperately.
Oh my God. And they're
so
never.
desperately.
By the way, we
Between like him with like a fucking Game making that song about Beyonce's mother 3 weeks ago to this new stuff with twins, like, they're not gonna say shit, 'cause they don't say shit about anything. Like, the most we got was like, them sending that letter to like Jaguar's people last year, and even that was like, oh shit, y'all don't normally do that. They're not gonna do anything, and I think he's gonna continue to do really clearly desperate like stunts to make this happen. And it's just like, it's kind of sad seeing like the ravings of a mad king who like has not understood that he hasn't been on the throne for about 10 years. Like, he just hates whoever's on top of that. Like, if it wasn't Kendrick, if it wasn't Cardi, if it was somebody else, they'd
well, that's how you really knew,
like,
right?
And at least he admitted that in the interview.
Right.
Yeah.
He admitted to being jealous of Dot,
Yeah.
and getting the Super Bowl looks. So
He
that's
does-
a start.
He's jealous of everyone. And the other one that was so mind-numbing was the Pusha T stuff. Like, this man, Pusha, truly kept quiet for as long as humanly possible when asked about him.
Yeah.
You went so far with the desperation. You had to go to this next level where you put everybody who knows you in a position now where if they don't distance themselves, you are forcing them, in order to have any relationship with you, they have to sacrifice like real options in their life. Like if you come up to someone and you say, hey, I know for a fact you're friends with a guy who's obsessed with Hitler. Are you obsessed with Hitler?
Right.
You have to reasonably go, oh, no, I'm a sane person. I think Hitler was evil like all other sane people.
Mm-hmm.
If that to Ye is an affront, and you are now a bad friend who deserves to be ostracized, that's a lonely place to be, bro. Imagine having no relationship if you're him with Hove, Pusha, Kim Kardashian, the mother of your children. Like, he is alone.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, his Bianca Sensory's out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, so now you're in a hotel room wearing a KKK hood with Akademiks. To say the mighty have fallen, there needs to be a new phrase that has that, and all the money in the world, all the king's horses and all the king's men, there is nothing he can do. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Like, he'll keep selling that to you, like the I'm so rich I can do whatever. Yeah, but you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Like, all you can do is reach at this point the craziest sycophants you have. You're selling shirts for $20. By the way, where
samples cleared now? My nigga, you don't have the money to do everything that you
can't
want
get
to
a
do.
record done anymore.
Like, you can't even put them out on actual streaming services anymore because you want to self-leak. Like,
They had to get rid of all your sneakers. People had to liquidate them. Where are the swastika shirts in the street, Mr. Influence? When's it happening? Where is everyone going to be outside? When's your stadium tour next? I want to see. I mean, Chris Brown has a stadium tour now. Stadium tours are very in. I want to see the next Ye stadium tour.
And it was a struggle for him just to get the freaking arena tours and stadiums for vultures to do the listening. Yeah, to do the listening.
And by the way, does he sell tickets? Were those even sold tickets? Are they sold or free? I want to see how many tickets.
I mean, like,
I'm not sure.
who knows?
Yeah, I'm
Just
not
like
sure,
the status
honestly,
of
yeah.
the third Vultures album that never materialized. Like,
and
you
then
don't
he
know
shitted on
shit.
Ty. Like,
Wait, he shit on Ty?
oh, he shitted on Ty.
He did shit on Ty
Yeah.
because he claimed that like record labels pressured Ty to put out that statement saying that he doesn't, stand with the hate speech that's being spewed.
Again,
Because he was
That's
saying
the
that
example.
they
But it's
agreed
like,
on
right.
a statement, and
Right.
then he felt like Ty switched the statement to appease other people, instead of what he and Ye apparently agreed to initially. So he felt like he was thrown under the bus, again, for some higher powers or whatever who want to control the strings. And he
I got to
felt-
make a list of the people, respectfully, I got to make a list of the people who played themselves the most by hanging out with him. It is like, it's so epic. Because like even Ty, don't get me wrong, I feel bad for him because I love Ty. But at the same time, bro, you played yourself.
I don't feel bad at all.
Yeah, you were hanging
like,
out
that's
through
a
it all.
grown man
True.
who has a very clear brain. Like, you chose to link up with post 2020 Kanye West for 3 albums, and only 2 of them came out.
But
Like,
it's kind of like having
nigga.
the angel and the devil.
Not hope
right?
against hope.
Because in a sense, this last year was the biggest year of his career. He got a #1 song, got a #1 album.
sure.
The first of anything he
That's-
had.
that's-
Feel
those
bigger-
are-
does it feel bigger though
Does it-
than when he was running around with YG and Mustard? Like
That's the
I
thing.
don't
Like,
think
those
so,
are
yeah.
great stats to have, but it's not like anyone really gives a fuck about Carnival.
and I
like,
agree.
And I
I
feel
agree,
like,
but-
honestly, the bigger moments with Ty have come from Leon and Mutt, honestly, in the past, 6 months. That's so much more interesting and so much more cool for the culture than him giving Kanye, whack records or, maybe records that he spit a cool verse to in 2016 and we finally get half of that verse in 2023. I don't know. It's cool that you have those #1s now, but
Now, what
it
course?
does feel like
What
Ty
a
is kind
payoff.
of in the
Yeah.
same spot that he was before these records came out. Just everyone's looking at him a little bit sideways now. Why the fuck would you do that?
I guess I felt bad because career-wise, if you're in a moment where you think there's a really big opportunity to do something and you haven't had maybe a big opportunity in a second, I see why there's pressure to do it. But yeah, you're right. He's a grown man, a very talented man, and he made that choice. And this goes back all the way to, if we were to make the list of playing yourself, it can go back to Scooter, who sat next to him. It can go there are a lot of people who I like, who I care for, who made the mistake of being like, I'm gonna just keep hanging out and see how this goes. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, Jules.
Ugh.
The list goes on and on. And people are like, I got an idea. I'm going to run with this guy for a while. How bad could it go? It
told
always goes the worst way it could go.
You fully told Yes Jules to shut up before she gets exiled. Who says the word exile like that just casually? Guy's off his fucking rocker, but stood by him like that entire
And
time.
people stand
like,
by, and then they're like, they don't think it's going to be them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's similar to like the
Like
first
Milo.
Trump administration. Like literally the first Trump administration, so far he hasn't been doing it in the same way. The first time around, he was just firing everyone. Like, you're in, I love you. Oh, I'm loyal. Fired.
Yeah.
They're on TV talking about it.
Right.
Like, it would be the same thing. And by the way, like, there are similarities there. I mean, like, we saw
Gemini twins right there.
him run up to the Oval Office with the full.
I'm wrong.
I'm a Gemini.
Oh.
Yo,
Yeah.
them yo people.
Matter of fact, Trev, final word.
Boy, I mean, honestly, it ain't nothing that anybody ain't said. I think the thing that's hard to take maybe seriously with all this is we know he's an unreliable narrator. All this is going out now. In 2 weeks, you can get half these tweets that'll be contradicting or I didn't say this or whatever. I think the big thing that we pointed out is maybe, him aside, we've seen this before. We've seen this. We're going to see it again, unfortunately. To me, this time around, it's really about the other people involved, particularly his kids. Like,
Right.
I'm not even famous. Hard to believe. But if I heard from my daddy that he didn't want kids with my mom, like, that's going to hurt me forever, let alone everybody else gets to know about it. And, who knows how it goes down at school and all these kind of places. But the fact that that's out there forever, like, and I don't care if you walk it back in the sense of, I did want kids, but maybe she was the wrong person, or, I wasn't in my right mind when I said that. Like, that's the kind of shit that I feel like is going to stick.
Yeah, and that shit lives forever. It's the internet, bro.
Like, right. I mean, and so as much as it is about, the celebrity and this and that and what he's saying and what he's doing, this is one of the few times I think we really see other people, like directly in his family, be on the receiving end of this in a way that I don't know how you mend this relationship or mend that comment with, because that's one of those things I know for me, like, that would be especially at that young age.
I mean,
that's going to be in the back of my mind.
This is coming like years
forever.
after he was like, I almost like aborted her, or like, what
Yeah,
happened?
too.
Like, that's already out there. She probably already has to deal with that at school. Now
Great
she got
call.
some new shit. It's like, damn, you don't give a fuck about your kids.
The last thing I'll say on it is that I truly musically I was a huge fan of his. Like, I always thought personally he was weird, but musically, like, I remember he was kind of the last remaining artist who I like. Wow, that sounded incredibly douchey. Like, let me say that. Of the artists that I like covered, kind of, that were like in my world, where I basically had access to going to shows, he was like the last art. I would just go buy tickets. Like, I didn't have relationships with his team. Like, I would be like, oh, he's coming to town, I'm gonna buy tickets, I'm gonna go to the concert. Like, I was a fan in that
Go
way.
support.
I'm going to make sure I'm there.
Yeah, like, I don't want to miss those shows, and that happened for up until whenever, probably the Pablo tour. So and I think like all of us were kind of heartbroken to watch the Genius documentary.
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
were reminded of what was in there. Like, that within there, there's a lot of bad stuff that we've seen, but there was also some really special, unique stuff.
Yeah.
And I wish there was a version in which this could still turn out good. I don't believe there is, though. Like, and I wish, I hope against hope, I wish there could be a way that somehow this ends up getting to, like, he goes away for a long time. We find out he truly goes to get, like, deep, inpatient mental help. He comes out, truly is like, makes amends everywhere. That would be awesome. But the reality is, this is probably only a bad ending. And it's hard to imagine at this point. That bad ending, hopefully, is him as a very old man in bed one day. But if he doesn't ever get help, that's still going to be a bad ending.
Yeah.
It's going to be this for another 40 years. Like, that's still a bad ending. Like, there's no version without him getting just intense help, that this doesn't really end bad. And that's truly sad for someone who was one of the most important artists of our time.
Yeah.
He really was.
Breaks my heart, man. Let's move on. It's something more uplifting and positive. Another year means another summer jam that will be taking place this summer. This time around at the Prudential Center, June 20th. Lineup came out earlier this week. We're looking at A Boogie, Gunna, Glorilla, Ira Star, Asake, 4-1, Jim Jones and Friends, Ja Rule and Friends to honor Mr. Irv Gotti, R.I.P. Peter, man, obviously you played an integral part of Summer Jam, Hot 97, and general, man, what would you say is the legacy of Summer Jam? Just talk about the state of the annual concert, man, because I have a lot of fire memories, you know, going back to maybe early 2010s where I saw like Drake, Nicki, and Wayne take center stage, to 50 and G-Unit coming back. Everybody used to talk about the rain and how like the shit used to come down, but cats were still out here vibing. But now, you know, there's some chatter about it we need the feeling to be restored again for Summer Jam.
Yeah, I don't think that feeling is coming back. I think Summer Jam will still be a great time. I had a great time last year.
Yeah,
I had a great time the last 2 years. And at first I was annoyed that it was moved inside. It's not a MetLife Stadium. Like, that's just not quite the same. This year it's a Friday late in June. Okay, that does indoors.
Yeah.
In no way does that resemble when I first got to the station in 2007. So, but again, as I mentioned earlier, I am old and washed, and from that standpoint, I really enjoyed like a shorter show where you're not thinking about the weather.
Yeah.
And you can kind of just post up in a seat and see a dope array of acts, because I am, you know, if I were 24 years old and wearing a Duke sweatshirt, I would go to like Coachella and different festivals and wander around all day. But I'm not. I'm old and washed, wearing an expensive jacket, and I'm going to sit in my seat with a beverage in my hand, and I'm going to see the acts come to me.
And have a good time.
So so let me say this. What I'm not going to do is get up here and go, Summer Jam's the same as it's ever been. We're not going to do that. I've been around too long, and I don't care. So I'm not saying that. It is definitely not the same, and it ain't coming back. But I'm also not going to sit here and say it's not a great time. I did absolutely enjoy last year, even like Sexy Red. Like, I'm not going to a Sexy Red show. I'm not. I'm not even interested enough. But when I was at Summer Jam, I did enjoy taking in a Sexy Red show. And I was like, oh, this is what the Sexy Red thing's all about. So like, and then you also got like old school stuff, and you get, you know, so nah, man, it's not 2001. It's not Michael Jackson with Jay-Z, but it's also not Nicki bringing out Drake, you know, and it's not Rosenberg dissing Nicki, and it's not all of those. Like, there were classic moments that really went up. I was trying to do the math the other day. I think to like the mid-teens, and maybe it really sort of changed in that way by the time the pandemic came. Yeah. But I don't see a world in which we go back to it meaning what it used to mean, but for so many reasons. First of all, a lot of changes in management at the radio station. Mistakes, in my opinion, with branding of the radio station, but I'm not going to get into all that here. I'll be somewhat filtered in that regard. But what I will say, that the bigger piece than any of those things that I could complain about, and privately, please reach out, is that the music has changed, but also the situation for concerts has changed. So artists just don't need us in the same way. They, number one, don't need us because radio is not as important as it was years ago. But it does maintain more relevance than people will give it credit for, right? It does matter, okay? However, there are now all of these festivals. We used to be the only place for rappers to go. Yeah. Like, you want to get in front of 50,000, you better do Summer Jam. By the mid-teens, Governor's Ball was the same weekend as Summer Jam, and they had, starting with one rapper, then they had two, now there's six. Now you look at these shows, half the top of the bill is rap. So respectfully to the company, again, even if I have issues with some decisions that have been made over the years, they're really in no position to compete. They can't financially compete with what these Live Nations are going to offer these artists to go do at these festivals. So you got to then go, all right, so what can we offer the audience that's not going to be the absolute top shelf number one artist in the game? Like, we're not getting Drake anymore. He has his own festival. J. Cole has his own festival. We're not getting, Nicki's doing a worldwide. She did a worldwide tour. Stadiums. Kendrick's in stadiums with SZA. All artists we've seen on the stage before, they're not coming back. So what do? I think you do probably what has been done, which is you put together an interesting lineup with a few old classic New York heads that people love to hear from, some new New York heads who have some buzz that people like and kids can mess with. Then you throw in a few just big, mainstream hip-hop acts, which in this case, Gunna, Glorilla, and A Boogie are three nice, solid, interesting artists. Like, I want to see Glorilla.
I agree.
Is 45-year-old Peter Rosenberg going out to a Glorilla concert? No, I am not.
You should, though.
But I don't have to.
Yeah, now you got it right there, right?
But I saw. But I was watching clips of her concert. And I was like,
pretty.
I'd like to see Glow.
Yeah.
I like her. She's charming and has good records. Like, I mess with Glow.
Yeah, you can get into a fight on the floor with everybody and everything.
Exactly. Why not? And you never know who she's gonna bring out. Whatever.
That's a fact.
And then the last bit of spice that you add in, and this again speaks to the some of the positive changes in the genre. Then you add in some cultural acts too.
Hell yeah!
Now we get Afro beats. You get Haitian artists, Trini artists, Jamaican artists, and that's a very New York thing. So when it's all said and done, while it does not have the sex appeal of 2010, if we were to go back and look at it, it's going to be a sold-out good concert. Yeah. Like that, it's going to be a sold-out, really good indoor concert where you're not stressing the weather. So like, I guess it's kind of a cheap way of saying, nah, it's not the same. But it's still pretty dope.
Yeah,
it's different, but it's good.
Hey, you know what I realized too? It's coming right off Juneteenth, so that's gonna be a long weekend.
Do we still have Juneteenth?
I would hope so. Shit.
As far as we're aware, I'm gonna take
as far as we know,
I don't give a fuck what that man says. I'm gonna take Juneteenth.
By the way, in New York, where we are all doing this show right now, we are good.
Oh,
New York has it.
Hell yeah.
Across the country, we're gonna see how that plays.
Good luck to them. I'm gonna have my vacation.
No matter. By the way, first of all, Juneteenth is literally the most appropriate holiday ever created, right? Like most holidays, you're like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
This one was like, oh, this is the day that the worst institution in the history of our country ended. This is literally what holidays are made of. Like, this is what a holiday is supposed to be.
This is true.
And then once you introduce a new day off, I mean, there could have been full-on bigots out there who were like, nah, we're celebrating Juneteenth.
We ain't got to go to work.
Wait, what? You know what? On second thought. But yeah, no, it is cool. It is the day after Juneteenth. I don't know if that's going to be the I don't know, like for people observing work observance, probably will be. It might be that Friday. If it's an observed holiday,
that's
I wonder,
good though, because that means
it's like it's one of those day of.
You
holidays.
have to do day up.
Yeah,
Are you sure?
Who the hell would do Juneteenth on June 20th?
Well, I would.
It's still the 19th.
Don't look at this. It's one of them like hard.
You have to keep the day.
That's why it's called Juneteenth.
So then, then
come on, Texas.
But can we get Friday?
I'm like,
but can we get Friday too then?
I mean,
I think it's a long weekend.
That's what I'm saying, though.
That's good for the
city. Once you get the Thursday,
right. I mean, you got to talk to your manager, but I think you can.
That's good for the city. That means it's gonna be like lots of nice parties and functions happening that weekend.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's gonna kind of,
like,
pretty. Yeah, we already here, going.
That's good time.
I feel like this was a weak cop-out answer by me, but I really do authentically mean what I'm saying. I think you'll have a great time if you go. I loved it. We were at UBS last year, and I really did feel weird about it because culturally, I hate that we're not at the stadium.
Yeah, I get it.
Culturally, I hate that we're on a Friday in the end of June. Yeah. Because it's just not the same.
Right.
But old washed me says,
get to kick your feet up
inside on a Friday.
UBS is also a very nice event.
UBS was great.
Gorgeous.
And by the way, Prudential's great too. This year's Prudential, which is a great. I think Prudential is one of the underrated buildings.
I was gonna say it is underrated
of this area. You got a dinosaur barbecue outside. It's a good time at Prudential. So, but yeah, no, I certainly
come on down to the Prudential Center.
That's right.
Get you a hot plate of links
right before the show. Yeah.
But I did. But listen, I'm not gonna sit here and lie. Like the early days when I started. I just feel very grateful that when I look back at my career, I was able to get up to hot at a time when it was still very much hot. Like, I won't sit and pretend as if the brand is now in 2025 what it was in 2010.
Right.
Because I'm not a fool. But what I will say is I'm very personally proud that I had a run of being deeply entrenched in it when it still was. You know what I mean? Like I was the morning guy when it was still like happening and like at Summer Jam with Miss Info and Angie Martinez and crazy. Like it was still the essence. You know what I mean? So I am proud of that. It was some of the great. My first day of work ever was at Summer Jam. I was a kid who grew up dreaming of being on Hot 97, listening when I would visit my grandparents. And my first day working here, the assignment from Ebro, who at the time was my boss, was go to the stadium. Here's where you go. Your name's on a list. I had not yet done a shift. Check in, and they assigned me a camera guy, who turned out to be my friend DJ Quiz, and they handed me a mic with the Hot 97 flag on it, and I was just roaming Summer Jam with the official Hot 97. Like, I was the reporter to do interviews backstage. That was my first day on the job. Like, it was an insane, like, and I just feel like it was such a different time, right? Like, there were no blogs, like, there was no social, so there was no other 1,000 other people doing the same thing. I was the only one. And these rap artists who I loved so much, even like the mainstream ones, because I was, Joe Backpack, but even the mainstream ones were like superheroes who stepped out of a comic book. Like, when you're standing there, and you can go find it, like Peter Rosenberg does Summer Jam 2007 is on YouTube. I look insane, but whatever. To be standing there in the hallway and like, here comes Rick Ross and Swizz Beatz and Jadakiss. It was like, for me at that time, like seeing superheroes step off the screen into real life, and I get to be the one to interview them. And like, it's wild. Those were amazing days.
I love that. Well, knowing that 18 years at Hot, now you get to kick back, enjoy. June 20th.
Comfy chair.
Oh yeah, you may not even get me on stage. I used to host all day. I don't even work anymore. I just show up and I'm like, where's free food? I've made it to that level. Just show me to my free food. Let the kids do the interviews. These artists don't need to see me running up on them with a microphone anymore. Now, my goal now is to get to run up on artists with a microphone at like other places where they don't expect to see me.
Hey.
Like WWE, when we had Bad Blood in Atlanta. And I get to run up on all the rappers there.
Shout out to Metro,
Yeah, Metro was there. Quavo,
Killer
Yachty,
Mike.
Killer Mike. By the way, it was the first time I ever met Metro.
Really?
Never met Metro in my life until, like, we literally only became friends over wrestling.
That's fire.
Like, I never met him before. I went up to him. We had like a very, obviously we know each other well, but had never been, because he's one of those artists who ascended without ever really needing to do press.
Right.
There was no Metro press run. I'm sure you guys, places like Billboard and real journalistic outlets, he's not going to radio.
No.
So like, that was the first time I ever met the man in my life, and it was over wrestling, which is, it's going to be crazy to see in Vegas. WrestleMania coming up in a few weeks, the weekend of the 20th. It's going to be fascinating to see the level of celebrities that come out.
Yeah.
When Drizzy showed up in Toronto,
crazy
was that. Now that was
the chamber.
A different level.
Nuts.
I did not expect that, but we're here
for
now.
Vegas.
Vegas.
They're coming out.
It's going to be nutty.
And in case you guys didn't see, shout out to Mr. Peter Rosenberg, who also made our sports and music power players list, especially for what he has done with the WWE. Before we wrap, I just want to personally give you your flowers.
Thank you.
Because these guys know I'm a huge wrestling fanatic, and what you've been able to do in terms of crossover and open the door in terms of the intersection of music and wrestling, I don't think that's highlighted or spoken about enough, especially with WWE now at its peak, and culturally everybody's trying to tap in. I think you were the first to really bring and bridge those gaps together. So,
I appreciate it. A big shout out. Yes, I was very early when I first got to Hot in 07. I was always like wearing wrestling shirts at that time. It was like big Cena Edge era. And I started doing interviews I would do all these WWE press conferences, and again, I was the only person, me and my buddy Sam Roberts, we were like the only people with cameras and microphones out there trying to do this stuff. And I had the Hot 97 mic flag, which kind of rang bells, So I was very early, but shout out to Wale.
Wale
Mania 10 is this year, but he, around the same time, I'll say me just first, but you just by a little bit. Wale, Smoke DZA. Of course, now West Side Gun carries the flag really big. But also, shout out to Neil Lowy, who's the head of music at WWE, who really does a tremendous job bridging the gap with all these artists. I mean, you see Travis Scott is intimately involved. I don't think there's any Travis WWE thing without Neil's involvement. He was such a big piece of that. But it is cool, man. Like when I'm at these shows, I've been there. My first show I did with them was in 2016, and to see the way the celebrity thing has changed,
it's different.
Where now, Logan Paul is there full time. Pat McAfee is there full time. But then you're at a show and you see like a sign for Kai Cenat and I Show Speed. I'm like, I got backstage. I'm like, there's a Kai Cenat dressing room? Like, what is going where? And then you see Travis, and then you see Quavo, and now SummerSlam at MetLife, we'll see Cardi.
Yep.
Like, it's just Cardi B.
Yeah.
Cardi. Cardi.
Yeah.
But it's a cool time, and I appreciate it. I receive your flowers, and I'm incredibly grateful that I've been able to take these worlds I love. Shout out to my friend and my former co-host on the radio in New York, Michael Kay, the voice of the Yankees,
Yes.
who said something very funny to me the other day, and I thought was so accurate. He goes, someone was making a joke. One of my co-hosts was making a joke about calling me a nerd or saying you're not cool, blah blah blah. And Michael Kay was like, well, I'll say this about Peter: none of the things that he's into are that cool, but the total package comes together really well. Like, and I would say he probably wouldn't include hip hop in that, because hip hop is kind of inherently cool. Although the backpack nerd rap that I'm into, maybe not, but like you add the whole thing up, and I'm like, you know what? It has come together in a kind of interesting, cool way. Because who doesn't like hip hop and who doesn't like sports?
Right.
And we know who doesn't like wrestling.
Amen.
If you have taste.
Amen.
Who doesn't like wrestling?
Exactly.
So no, I'm super, not generically, legitimately super blessed and appreciative of it.
We love that. Hopefully we see you again. Thank you for kicking.
It's a good show. I like that show.
You get to talk your shit, man.
It's a smart, shit talky show with a legit nice studio here, right in the heart of New York City.
Right in the heart of New York City.
Right.
Midtown,
You
baby.
know, you guys, by the way, the location is an insane flex.
Yeah.
Like, you could get artists here, and they can walk directly to Gucci and Louis V the second they finish the interview. That's a real perk for people.
That's part of the pitch package.
Across the street from the Louis Vuitton store.
If you want to stop by. But no, real talk. Thank you,
Appreciate
Peter, for joining us.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate y'all for kicking it with us for another episode of Billboard Unfiltered. We will see you soon.